can't. Oh. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton.
And I'm Chris Kirkpatrick.
And I almost forgot to record again.
I'm glad that we have gotten over that. I remember that we had one episode where it was like, I swear, probably one of the best episodes we've ever done. And an hour later, we stopped, and you're like, I didn't record that at all. I think I wanted to strangle you. I wanted to strangle you.
I wanted to. I really wanted to reverse time and fix that, but yeah. And then another time when we had a guest on, and we went for like 20 minutes or so, and nothing.
Wasn't that with Marilyn Gigliotti?
It was actually,
yeah.
And it was funny too because that same night my internet went out on me, and I was out for like 10 minutes, and it was really awkward. But I mean, it worked out. And
you left me monologuing for 10 minutes. So
yeah, but luckily I figured out like what the problem was. It was like my router and everything's run through an outlet, which is attached to a plug, or not a plug, but a switch on the wall, and somehow the switch had gotten bumped.
Oh
off.
No!
And so now I put like tape over it, so like nobody accidentally hits it or anything.
Well, I mean, there is just a learning curve, right? I mean, it's one of those things where you don't know until you do it. So.
Right. And so we're here to talk about, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I figure we can just go straight into that, and then whatever other side conversations, which I'm sure will happen.
So before we do, I wanted to give a shout out. Today is actually my mother-in-law, Leona Pencil's birthday. I won't tell everybody how old she is, but I did want to just give her a shout out today for her birthday. I will say, some people talk about their mother-in-laws, and they usually preface that by like planning their deaths or whatever. But I will say that I've been really fortunate that that my mother-in-law is just a really, really amazing woman. And, she's lived with us the last almost 8 years now, and just a blessing to our household. And so
awesome.
Shameless plug time, but I just wanted to just wish her a happy birthday. So
happy birthday from me as well, and hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely gonna be. So one of the reasons why we moved the podcast earlier is the party is tonight. So I didn't want to try to do the podcast and then try to have that interrupt the party and everything else. So
live party.
I know. Thank you though for being flexible. I really, really appreciate that.
I think this is a little bit better for me tonight anyway, because that way I can watch an extra hour of TV, or no, maybe not an extra hour. It's just shifted. It was Feagles earlier. I get done with this earlier, and I don't have to like rush to get ready for the next day and all that. So
right. Well, and tonight is. I realize we're talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but tonight is the first night of DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
I'm gonna try to catch it. I know I don't have cable or anything like that, so I have an antenna that still picks up CW. I just never use cable that much, so I just decided I'm not gonna keep paying for it. It's an extra like $45 a month why but I don't know if my antenna is hooked up or not, so I have to run in there like I'm gonna miss it like it feels like 1996 or something all over again. You're like, we screw in the thing, and the little wire that you actually have to screw into the back of the thing. So I hate those. And when I was a kid, I loved the ones you could just pop right on, and they didn't have the little screw. So, but if I miss a couple of minutes, I thought about waiting until tomorrow afternoon and watching it when I get home.
Yeah, I will be really careful about spoilers, but I know we've been waiting for Legends of Tomorrow to come back. Since this is one of those shows that, Mark Guggenheim is directly involved in, we certainly want to make sure we give him a plug and encourage you guys to watch. And then Batwoman should be on tonight as well. I think at the later time slot.
I think 9 o'clock. Yeah. Legends is at 8. And I really want to. I don't know if I watched the last Batwoman or two. I don't know. It's hard because when shows go on breaks after waiting like a year and then going on break and then coming back, I think I need to catch up on Batwoman. And it got really confusing too when CW does that. Like in mid-season, they say, okay, well, this show's going off like Superman and Lois. And then they put this show in its place and move this show to here. And I lose track and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
like,
I'm with you. There is something to be said for momentum in a show.
Yeah.
And you get used to a show being on a certain day at a certain time. And then like my favorite right now is Superman and Lois.
So
and
good.
Just as I was getting into the groove of the show, they went on their hiatus until, the middle of the middle of May.
Yeah, a couple more weeks. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I mean, the good news is in a couple of weeks, it's going to be back.
Right, but it's been long enough.
And speaking of Mark Guggenheim, we're going to go ahead and throw this Twitter out there now.
Yeah.
At M Guggenheim. He's awesome. And I know he's been working on a lot, and he's been working on, Green Lantern and then his other projects. I can't remember all of them. I know we had a few. But hopefully, we can get him on again one day when Green Lantern finally comes up and
Absolutely.
talk about that. Unrelated, I know we usually talk about DC. We're going into Marvel, but I just picked up this Wolverine action figure today, which is I thought was pretty cool. Wolverine. Nice. It's an older style. I mean, I don't know what series it's from, but it's the older paint, which I really liked, the yellow and brown. And he's got like this gray beard, and it's kind of hard to tell on camera there, but he also has another head. These guys, their heads just come right off.
He's got another head?
Yeah, they some figures have like different heads with different expressions on.
Wow.
I don't really know what the other head is right now because I was playing with it earlier. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool. I'm on this action figure kick lately.
Yeah, I will tell you that Wolverine, I mean, I realized that, Wolverine has had a number of his own standalone movies, but even before the movies, I was the biggest Wolverine fan from X-Men and from his comic run series. Just really dynamic and well written. So,
yes. Yeah. I think one of my favorite Wolverine memories, I don't know why, I don't remember the exact dialogue, but it was on the animated series. And who can forget the classic X-Men animated series that was in the 90s? And I remember it was a Halloween episode, and Wolverine is sitting there, and Beast was there, and they're like handing out candy. And he's like, I hate Halloween. He's like, why? Because these kids get to dress up and put on masks, but we have to sit here. This is how we live our lives. Blah. And he was all like angry about Halloween. It was amazing.
I love how you make him sound like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Let's hand him out Slim Jims.
I don't know. Why did I not realize that Wolverine sounded like Macho Man Randy Savage? Or Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, right? Hulk Hogan. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I used to do a Hulk Hogan impression, but I'm not going to be good at it right now. Probably.
Yeah, I would
try that one.
We need Eric Goins to come by and do voices for us again.
Yes, and we still need to get in touch with him again. It's been a while. We need to talk to him again. We were supposed to do a voice off and do voice impressions
with Stargirl season 2. I know we're kind of running through all of these shows here, but with Stargirl season 2 coming up, that would be a great opportunity for him to come back. Though I think we have to wait a little bit longer. I think Stargirl doesn't come back until August.
August, I think, yeah. And I was going to say Legends, but that comes on tonight, and I forgot. Wow,
right,
so quickly. But yeah, so and I was watching. I was about to start watching. Before we get into Falcon and Winter Soldier, I was about to start watching Mandalorian, but then I was like really tired the other night when I was watching it, and I didn't want to fall asleep, so I kind of just said, "Okay, I'm going to wait." So I really want to give that show my attention.
It's worth your attention. If you have not, if anybody else that's watching this hasn't seen Mandalorian, whatever you're expecting, it's better than that. I mean, I am a big Star Wars fan. Not really a huge Boba Fett fan, but and I didn't know a lot about the Mandalorians going into the show. However, it's just brilliantly written, and it really is captivating. And so, Stephen, I look forward to talk to you about that show. Because it's really, 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 really good. And if you're not watching it yet, I encourage you, jump on the bandwagon.
Oh yeah,
and watch it, you won't be sorry. So
I'm definitely looking forward to watching it. I'm sitting here trying to find some screenshots for Legends, but it's going to be. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I was on Disney Plus and I saw that now all the X-Men movies are on there.
oh really?
So yeah, like X-Men Origins, X-Men. I don't know if all of them are. I noticed a lot of them because apparently, Fox, Fox, and the whole like merger and everything. So they're starting to pull those movies over, and I'm still waiting for Spider-Man. I don't know. It might be on there now. I don't know, but they worked a deal where all the Spider-Man movies. I mean, not all. Wouldn't that be great though if the Tobey Maguires and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans and all those were on there? That'd be amazing. But yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, I don't know why it took so long to get Disney Plus again because that show was amazing, and I was actually it was over so quick.
Right.
I was really thinking it was like 8 or 9 episodes for whatever reason, even though I knew it wasn't. But I was just ready for more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that WandaVision was 8 episodes.
Yeah, I believe so.
And so I think that what I really enjoy about both WandaVision and about Falcon the Winter Soldier, even though it was a shorter series, I like that it's tight. I like that it's got a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear end, and that they also all tie in. They're all kind of interrelated with everything else that's going on in the MCU. I think it's just brilliant.
Mm-hmm. I think it was great. Like, gosh, so much. Because going into it, I was never a huge Falcon fan. Right. I don't know why. I mean, I didn't hate him. He was just one of those characters where I was like, eh. That's kind of how I felt about Captain America too in the beginning, before the films.
Right. I think that why you hadn't really thought a whole lot about Falcon, or maybe even the Winter Soldier, is that both of them are essentially sidekicks. I mean, Bucky was Captain America's first sidekick back in World War II.
Yeah.
And so Falcon is the same thing for Captain America, right? Mm-hmm. We saw in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, when we are introduced both to the Winter Soldier and to Falcon, that they're both side characters. And I think what I really like about what the MCU is doing with these shows is they really are letting these side characters shine.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it gives them room when they do the big features to, not exclude them intentionally, but to tell the stories of the main characters and then let these be really, I don't know if you could say, I guess they would be called spinoffs. These extended stories. It's almost like bonus content, which is amazing. And
yeah,
I really loved every moment of that show. I want to call it a movie because it felt like a movie. It felt like a 6-hour movie, but.
Yeah, I think that what was great was they put in the production value of a movie, but with the pacing mm-hmm. and the character development of a series.
Exactly.
And so I feel like they blended both worlds really, really well. I think that what was really neat about it was, we see, Falcon played by Anthony Mackie, and we see Sebastian Stan, who plays Bucky Barnes, and they are essentially, we're kind of seeing their life. This takes place after the events of Endgame, right? Mm-hmm. And so both of them are really trying to deal with the aftermath of their lives. Remember that both of them, Falcon had disappeared during the blip.
Yeah.
And so he had returned. Did Bucky end up staying?
I can't remember. I think he did, honestly, because I think that was part of it. Like the two of them were like, you don't understand because I was blipped away and you weren't, were you? I think that was part of the whole thing.
Right. Well, and I think that explains why he has such history with the Dora Milaje and with Wakanda, mm-hmm. And why they eventually gave him his own vibranium arm is because of the time that he had spent there. But I really think it's neat that we see both of them trying to move on.
Yeah, and it's like Falcon. Sam. He's just like, I don't want to be Captain America. But at first, I'm like, oh, come on, be Captain America. And I thought he was afraid or not ashamed, but like insecure or whatever. And it turns out it's really one of those real situations that is still in the world today, where he's like, they'll never accept a black Captain America.
Right. I think that's certainly what you bring up. A black Captain America. I think that is certainly something that this show tackles head on.
Yeah.
And you know what I don't think that Falcon realizes at the time was that when Steve gave him the shield, he understood that there would be people out there that didn't agree with his decision, that wouldn't like it that a black man would be Captain America. But he knew that it was time. I think that at the same time, Sam has this humility about him, right? I mean, I think that's part of what makes him worthy to be Captain America to begin with, is that I don't think he realizes just how much of a hero he is. And so his gesture of taking that shield and donating it to the Smithsonian where he thought it belonged, I think it was an honorable gesture. I think that was great. The shocker in all of it, though I don't think it should have been surprising, was how they would end up manipulating the shield, right?
Yeah. I mean, we could just go ahead and say, like, new Captain America. I mean, what a dick, right? I mean,
right.
I think he kind of comes around in the end, but then again, he comes into, the very ending. I don't really know what to take from that. I mean, he seems like, I don't want to jump too far ahead too quick, but, he seemed to have an attitude shift and then was like, you know what? You're Captain America. I'm sorry. But then at the end, it's like, maybe something else is going on.
Yeah. Well, so, and again, if you haven't seen it, just understand that we're going to be throwing spoilers at you.
So spoilers.
Be prepared. But Wyatt Russell, they give us that reveal at the very end of the episode that Wyatt Russell has been selected by the government to be the next Captain America. And I know he looked kind of dorky in the uniform, but when you look at his bio, I mean, it seems like he has all of the qualifications, right? That he's physically strong. He actually serves in the military actively. He's a multiple awarded hero. He on paper he looks like the embodiment of Captain America.
He really does.
Yeah. But he also believes that he deserves it. And I think that is ultimately what disqualifies him, is this feeling of entitlement that somehow he has earned that shield. It's no surprise that the reaction that both Bucky and Sam have when they see John Walker dressed up as Steve with the shield that they donated. I mean,
what a slap in the face too from the government. It's like, oh, we honor Steve Rogers and he will live on, and all of a sudden it's like, here you go. Like, wow. It's almost like an ex-girlfriend just like going out on a date with her new boyfriend at your house.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that. It was just like, what an insult. And I just couldn't believe like they moved so quick with that. They knew what they were doing all along. They're like, if he ever gives us that shield, because they thought it was theirs. The government's like, okay, this is our property, when it never really was.
Right. Well, and I think that was they definitely were building up this theme. The idea that Steve had intended the shield to go to Sam, and it ends up going to this pretty boy who looks the part, but he really doesn't stand for anything. As we find out, he's sort of a hollow man.
Yeah, he really is.
He really is. The other part of it that is equally shocking is that he already has a sidekick, right? So Clay Bennett plays Battlestar, and again, the black sidekick. I think that would be the insult of insults to Sam that they had to give him a black sidekick.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, and I don't know. I'm trying to find good things to say about these guys, but like, there's not many things I could say that's good about this dude. I mean, I keep thinking of like this big thing that happens later on.
I know, and we'll get to it. I will say that I didn't put it together until later on who Wyatt Russell was. You might be familiar with Kurt Russell, and you might be familiar with Goldie Hawn, both of which are the parents of Wyatt Russell.
Right.
So
okay.
That is sort of his claim to fame outside of the other shows that he's been a part of, is that his parents are Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
I can see it now when I think of him. Yeah.
I know. I don't know why I didn't automatically recognize that, but there's a positive thing, and I don't think that necessarily they're bad guys. But I do think they're still not worthy, right? Like if you had John Walker try to go pick up Thor's hammer, he wouldn't be able to lift it an inch off the ground, right? Because he's not worthy, and they know it. We haven't talked about Bucky, played by Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, I'm really, really starting to love that character. And of course, in Captain America: Winter Soldier, I'm like, what a dick! I hate this guy. He's horrible. And then, of course, you find out that he's being controlled. He's not wanting to do this. And then that's what made Civil War so great. Like, here's Steve and Tony fighting. I love how we always just call them by their names and not even use them. I know. But they're fighting, and then it's like, no. And then, of course, I keep wanting to call it. I'm going to force myself to say Iron Man at least once. Iron Man is like, you killed my parents? And then he's like, oh, no. And then he's like going to kill Bucky. And it's just like that whole thing. It's like, how do you not pick – I mean, you want to pick a side, but then how do you? You're like, but they both have points, and I don't know what to do. This is amazing. I was more for Iron Man during that whole thing.
Really?
I mean, a little bit. I think because Spider-Man was there, and I knew he was like with Tony Stark, and I'm like, okay, I love Spider-Man, so I'm picking that team. I don't know. I mean, and because the moment where Spider-Man whips his web and like pulls the shield, he's like, haha, like that was really cool.
It was a cool moment. I was definitely team Cap. I really appreciated the idea that despite everything that Bucky had gone through, that Steve wasn't going to abandon him. He was going to be he was going to fight for his friend. And
it really is the more heroic thing, honestly.
It is. It's hard. But I think he also realized that Bucky had been brainwashed and manipulated. And I think he also realized that he had been made the scapegoat for all of this stuff. And so for me, I liked that. What I really enjoy is how that character arc has continued in this series, right? And it really gets brought in internally in that therapy session that, he doesn't want to tell the therapist just how much he's struggling to find himself, right? And because, he's the tough guy, and he doesn't want to be considered or seen as vulnerable. And yet we know that he's desperate to try to right the wrongs
He really is. And imagine having to go through that. I mean, like, and you have these memories of killing all these people, but knowing it was against your will. Like you were like being controlled, literally. And I couldn't imagine what that's like, and how do you accept and move on from that?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think the truth is that, we all deal with regret.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've never dealt with regret, give it time. Something will happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think that the truth is we all have to try to make it better. We try to have to resolve it and then move on with our lives. And definitely that is true. That is true for Bucky. Even the idea, I love the part where his therapist said, "Show me your phone," and she was like, you don't have 10 people you don't have 10 contacts on your phone, and I'm the only person that you contacted all week, and you haven't responded to Sam's text messages, right? I mean, he was really calling him out, the idea that
she really was.
He was living this lonely existence, and it was like, you're alive, but you're not really living.
Yeah, you're just kind of floating around. You're essentially a ghost. I mean, honestly. I keep wanting to see him as Captain America, but I know maybe we'll get a version of that. But I mean, I think he still has a ways to go before he could be considered worthy himself.
I think that first things first. I think that Bucky realized that he has to deal with his demons.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that he could be this mass murderer, essentially, right? This assassin, gun for hire, and then hold on to that shield and represent his friend Steve Rogers, right?
No way.
If Sam didn't feel worthy of it, Bucky definitely didn't feel worthy of it. And I think the other part of it too is when you already have super soldier serum and a vibranium arm, you don't really need a shield. I think that is the other part that I think is equally important. I want to make a couple of observations before we kind of keep plugging forward. We see again George Batroc, and it was a character that we had seen sort of like a hired mercenary in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and they bring him back in that opening sequence again, as they're showing Falcon kind of doing his thing, right? Like single-handedly taking them out and rescuing the prisoner. What I didn't realize is that Batroc is played by Georges St. Pierre.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did you know who he was?
I didn't know at first, but when I realized, I was like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah, I mean the MMA guy, and so I just thought that was cool. I don't know why I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. I didn't put it together. I'm not great with, like, number one, remembering character names. I don't know why. I'm just like, I miss names. I'm bad with names in general, really.
Right.
I can meet someone and not know their name for about a week or two and see them every day.
I totally understand you. I will tell you that one thing that I've loved about things being virtual is that when I'm in a virtual meeting, having their name right underneath their face makes it so nice. But I will also tell you that whenever we go into these interviews, I always pull up the character list for the shows. It makes it so much easier for me to call out a character name or the actor. So, but
it really does.
It really does. I just I think that for me that was just kind of a neat recognition, right, of who he is. What was kind of the next neat thing that you had seen?
Oh gosh, there was so much stuff in that show.
Zemo.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were going to bring him back.
that was pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, so many. Like I don't know. I didn't honestly. It had been so long since I'd seen any of the Captain America movies. Even Endgame. I think I might have watched it the one time when it released. So there was a lot that I forgot. That I like maybe halfway through an episode, like, why was that person important? Who were they fighting? Oh yeah, and it like kind of hits me like later on or 2 episodes later, and I just blows me away. They're like, they brought this one back, this one back. It was so cool how they connected kind of like every little thing back together.
Right. I definitely was shocked that they brought Zemo back. Right, Zemo was the villain, essentially pulling all the strings in Civil War. But they turned to him kind of like in Silence of the Lambs, when they end up, using, the bad guy to help them understand the criminal.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what they do. And I think that as much as he was useful, I was like, man, you guys can't trust him.
Exactly.
The minute you turn your back, he's going to stab you. I mean,
I kept waiting for it.
Yeah.
Like, what is he going to do? How is he going to do it? When is it going to happen? Who's going to do it to? Like, every second I saw him on the screen, I'm just like, I'm watching you.
Yeah. But I found him engaging. I found him clever. I think we might have underestimated how smart he was.
And that's kind of what happens, I think, with these villains. It's like you don't really think about how smart they really are, and how even though they might be a bad guy, they're willing to do what they have to do if it benefits them in some way. No matter if it's right or wrong, if they get some benefit out of it, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that thing happens.
Right. I feel like seeing him integrate, you would think of all the people that they would not want to work with. It would be him, particularly Bucky. I mean, this was the guy who had murdered in cold blood other super soldiers, and essentially had been the one who had single-handedly managed to tear the Avengers apart.
I almost forgot about some of those details. Like, wow. Miller makes me want to go back and watch all the movies again in a row.
Yeah, I mean, and he's the one who, bombed the UN and killed T'Chaka. And so all of that kind of stuff. I mean, the guy really was a nasty dude. And then, to add insult to injury, he used that the brainwashing technique to manipulate Bucky. And so, the fact that they would turn to him, what do they say? Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Exactly.
And they see it, and we know part of the reason why they're so desperate because of Carly Morgenthau, right? Played by Erin Kellerman. She and a bunch of others, they were the Flax Smashers. Kind of a silly name.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, it works, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they're one of the interesting things that the show did was play around with our conceptions of good and evil, right? There were a number of times where I looked at these. I mean, they're terrorists, and yet we see them, stealing vaccines, and then they're delivering them to refugees to help sick people, and writers are going, wow, these guys really are not as bad as I thought. They go and blow up a building, right? Yeah. And okay, maybe I was right the first time.
Maybe they're not so great.
Right. They do play with that line of who exactly is good and who exactly is evil, right? even the UN and the American government, right?
Mm.
You know, um, they're it's kind of a tangled web.
Yeah, I kept wanting to hate the government, and then I realized I already do that in real
Right,
life. And
right.
then, but then it's like it's the government. You have they're the good guy. They're not trying. I don't know. I don't know what to take from them. It's like were they trying to say, "Oh, this is a big like fu to like the American people and all that," or did they really feel like this guy's going to be a good Captain America? We need another one. They were just trying to do the right thing. It was hard to tell.
I think
That line was so blurred that I really couldn't see any kind of line there.
I think that that sometimes America gets tunnel vision,
Mm-hmm.
and their desire to move on and find somebody else to be the flag bearer and the
Yeah,
representative of America, they're to give people hope and someone to rally behind. They couldn't think of somebody that didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes and pale white skin.
mm-hmm.
And I think that we have this story of different Americas, right? We have Wyatt Russell's America, and then we see um, you know Sam and Sarah in New Orleans, dealing with their busted out fishing boat and
Yeah,
just trying to make a living, and even trying to secure a loan from the bank to save their
just save it.
business. And even as a superhero who has sacrificed for his country, he couldn't get a loan from the bank.
Exactly. And even though he had all this lined up, he was like, "Look, this is I have government contracts. Like I have money. I have collateral. I have it." No, not good enough. It's like what a slap in the face
It really was. If
on multiple
if
levels. I
right,
mean,
if Sam as a celebrity superhero um, could not get a loan from the bank. They really were talking about this disparity
mm,
between that people of color deal with here in the United States.
mhm.
That we are not equal as much as we want to be, and that people have been neglected and they've been ignored and they've been abused, and that's essentially what this show really talks about. You think about Carl Lumbly plays the older gentleman who
Yeah,
had been tested on. We've heard of studies where um uh, African Americans were used as guinea pigs um, as test subjects in real history.
yeah.
And so in this case, they had tried their superhuman human serum on him, and they used him in the field to go in and conduct operations, just like Bucky. And when they were done with him, they locked him up and ran tests on him and kept him in prison for 30 years. But
Yeah,
he never got the recognition that he deserved, even though he was a veteran and an American hero. And
that
yeah,
those scenes were just they were so emotional and so like it really hits you, especially when he gets so hurt and frustrated. He's just like, "Get out of my house!" Like the feeling in that, I was just like, "You better leave. He's gonna like mess you up if you don't."
right,
And it just felt so real, and I'm sure he's faced a lot of that in his real life,
absolutely.
and
I think yeah,
it's just insane.
I think that what we see is in many ways he kind of saw a lot of himself in Sam,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea that another black man would willingly go and serve a government that had treated him so badly, right? It would be kind of like rubbing salt in the wound.
It really would while
And
you're spitting in his face.
Yeah, you are openly serving and working for a government that that doesn't respect you, and I think that was, um, again, some uncomfortable conversations that we need to have. I appreciate that this show kind of brings to light, and it forces us to have, these conversations that even in America in 2021, things are not equal,
No.
and that's why. I know we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but that's why the idea that Sam becoming Captain America and embracing the shield,
Yeah.
that's why it's so important. And I think he realized that as he was walking around and seeing, little black boys and little black girls.
It's the Black Falcon.
Right.
It's just Falcon. But you're black. Are you black, kid?
Yes.
That was hilarious. I'm
It
sorry.
was.
I didn't mention that.
It was. But I think that it's true. What do they say? Representation matters.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just like this week we had the State of the Union, and behind President Biden, there was a female Speaker of the House, and there was the female Vice President of the United States, and the idea that women hold some of the major seats of power,
Yeah.
right? The idea that, I used this phrase just this week with my girls. You can do whatever you want, right? We have a black Southeast Asian female vice president here in the United States of America. You can do whatever you want, and I think that is exactly what Sam, as Captain America, represents. Hey, kid, you can be whatever you want. We've got a black Captain America.
And how cool does he look in that new suit?
I mean, the fact that he got this massive upgrade from Wakanda, which he absolutely deserved.
It was truly amazing.
My worry was that he would lose the wings when he took the shield, and that he was able to, incorporate the two, the shield and the wings, at the same time. I thought that was really.
I thought it was interesting too, because they completely tease that he won't have the wings anymore when they break, and he leaves them there on the table, and they're like, "You're not gonna take these?" They're like, "I don't need wings." And he grabs the shield and stuff. I'm just like, okay, he won't have them. And then boom, the first time they come out again, you're just like, whoa. And the mask, the way the goggles are on part of it, and like the shield on his back as he's flying, it looks even cooler, I think, than not only his Falcon suit, but the old Captain America suit.
It really does. What's interesting too is, so Danny Ramirez, it's sort of like the sidekick has the sidekick. Danny Ramirez, who plays Joaquin Torres, he's sort of like the the eyes on the street. He's really the intel guy. But I think what we need to wait for is, we know that the wings and the ultimately get left with him. My guess is that he is going to become the new Falcon.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
They don't show us that, but if I had to put money on the table right now, that would be my guess, is that Joaquin Torres is going to become the new Falcon.
I think he would be a good Falcon.
I think he would too. We haven't talked about Sharon Carter. How surprised were you to see her pop up again?
I thought that was kind of cool. It's one of those characters I wasn't too familiar with. I mean, any parts of any of these characters were, in the bigger team up movies.
Right.
I did see all of the Captain America movies just to get ready for, gosh, my memory is like gone. Civil War and up, like past Civil War, like those last end stage, I don't know what you would call it, end of phase films. So I did watch a lot of the main ones, like Captain America's, the Iron Man's, just to get a good chunk of the history.
Right.
But it was really cool. I thought it was really great. And like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm here. And it's like, now I'm going to have government secrets again. This is awesome. And it's like, oh, here we go.
I know. I was really happy to see her simply because first she was a familiar face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had first really met her in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. You know, she was one of the few agents who took a very strong stance against Hydra and supporting Captain America. And we follow her later on, and we realize that not only is she a person of character, but she's also related to Agent Peggy Carter, who had been Captain America, Steve Rogers' love interest back in the 40s.
Now the question is, well, no, I guess the question isn't, because as we learned, that Back to the Future is total bullshit. So I was gonna say, what if this version of her is Steve Rogers' daughter? But of course, that time travel and that thing doesn't work that way in this universe, apparently.
Right. It doesn't. It doesn't at all.
But she could be from the alternate Earth.
She could. So she's still called Peggy her aunt. And so I don't know how her aunt could be her mother. I guess the other part.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. The other part of it we need to realize is that you're right. According to the logic they used in the Endgame movie, traveling back into the past does not change your future.
Which I'm disappointed in that, but
I know I'm disappointed by that too. But it means Captain America going back in the past and living out his life with Peggy Carter does not. It would not have changed the present that he came from. No, the only way that Steve Rogers got back to that bench and gave his shield over to Sam was that he had to return after he had lived his life with Peggy.
And that makes you, well, at least for me and a lot of other people, it makes their heads hurt so much more, because this is a whole new Savitar kind of thing for me. Not so much Savitar, but it's one of those things where it's like, I felt watching it in the theater that we were supposed to believe as an audience that he lived through everything and came back to that point just in time. But then you start to think about it, and he couldn't have done that based on the thing, because if he went back his past, okay, never mind. But yeah, there's no way he could have done it. I'm starting in a mind loop, and I just don't want to go down that hole.
Right. The fact is that he would have, by going into the past, he would have created an alternate reality that never would have aligned with ours.
Basically a new Earth.
He would have. So he simply would have had to have used the device to return him back to our timeline. To me, it makes sense.
It makes sense, but then people question that theory because of the fact that when you're seeing him sit on the bench, he has no device, no suit, no nothing. And it's like we see earlier on, like you have to have these things in order to be able to travel, unless in that alternate world the rules are different. Right. And maybe that's the case.
Regardless, we have that same Emily VanCamp, Sharon Carter, who pops up, and I think we naturally kind of trust her because she's always been a good guy. And even when we see her in Madripoor, she seems to really, at least on the surface, have Sam and Bucky's back. But she also seems to know too much. Did you kind of feel that a little bit?
Kind of. I mean, it was like I didn't really know what to take from her because, like I said, I wasn't too familiar with her. I remembered her little bits, but it's been so long since I'd seen any of the other movies that I couldn't remember the full details. But I was like, yeah, I think she really does care. I think she really is like, okay, yeah, I'm good. Because at first I'm like, oh, she's bad. She's gonna turn on the government. Then I'm like, wait a minute, the government is not good. So, but yeah, I think I keep kicking something. Sorry. I agree with that. I think. What is it?
So that was certainly, I think the concern for me though was that, you know, it seems like it's that whole guilt by association, right? That she's in Madripoor. You really would only be in Madripoor if you really had something to hide, and you know, and as we found out, she was far more connected to how things were going than anybody had realized. In the end, we find out that that she is the power broker, right? The one who's in charge of this massive crime syndicate. And not only that, but she was the one who had peddled the superhero serum and had created those 20 you know, super soldiers, Carly Morgenthau being one of them. And so now she wanted her own kind of army of super soldiers, and Carly Morgenthau and the other Flag Smashers essentially used that for their own means. But I thought that was an interesting twist. But I was equally disappointed that a character that I had thought had impeccable character, you know, winds up essentially being the bad guy.
Yeah. I was just reading this comment that the Corey wrote. They're using the Bill and Ted time travel rules. The present that we know is how history is with Captain America living in it. That's one way to look at it. For sure. Yeah.
Too bad they didn't travel in a telephone box.
Right? That would have been amazing. Of course, if that was on Legends, then, well, they have a time shift, but I'm waiting for them to use a phone booth.
Right. Well, and again, you know, Doctor Who already... actually, when you realize that Bill and Ted ripped off Doctor Who, that'll make your head spin.
It kind of does.
It does.
So, do you think we're going to get more? I mean, we're going to see a Captain America 4 with, you know, Sam as Captain America. And
I think true. I think that it's unavoidable that we've had this massive setup. With Sam as Captain America, and I think as this rebranding of Bucky as the White Wolf, I think that considering the massive planning that everything they do in the MCU, they're going to have a fourth movie.
Everything's connected. I mean, the way they ended that thing, honestly, I thought there was going to be another episode. I'm waiting for it. Then it was like, you would also like, I'm like, I would also like episode 7. Where is it?
Right.
I mean, that black suit, though. I mean, what's that about?
So you're talking about the black suit for Walker? Yeah,
he comes out, you know, and he's like, "Woohoo, I'm back, woohoo!" And it's like it's the Captain America suit, but it's just solid black, basically.
Right. And well, you know, just as Bucky has been kind of rebranded himself as the White Wolf instead of the Winter Soldier, Walker gets rebranded not as Captain America, but as U.S. agent.
That's right. Yeah. And I've heard of the character and a little bit familiar from comics, but I didn't read that many.
Right.
But I thought it was cool. And my first thought was like, I don't know if it was an intentional thing. It seems too much of a coincidence, but it's like the whole theme being a black Captain America, and he's like, I'm the black Captain America. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's just my own silliness in my head, but it seemed like there was something there. But
I think that there is an intentionality about the suit, that they've toned down the flag, and they have. He's definitely a darker take on Captain America, right? And you know, the idea that he had used that shield, which had represented hope and freedom and America, and he used that as a murder weapon, I think that colored the kind of character that he is, and and I think that he is going to have to grapple as he goes forward as that character of who is he, what does he
Right.
stand for, what is he about. So I think that's absolutely the case that we see with his character, and I don't think that it's the last that we're going to see. I
I
feel like
don't.
we'd be remiss though if we didn't talk about Florence Kasumba,
Mhm.
who plays Ayo.
Right. I don't know much about her specifically. I know like, what we see,
Right.
but
Well, so and that was for me. That was a surprise
Mhm.
when the Dora Milaje, those that group of super skilled spear wielding Wakandan warriors
yeah,
pops up. It almost seemed like they were out of place.
right. And
Uh,
that's one of the reasons I'm not too familiar with them is because I don't know why, but I still haven't seen Black Panther.
no, oh my
I
God,
know. I don't know why, but I haven't. I've seen
Steven,
parts, but I've not seen the whole,
Steven.
film. I know. And I'm ashamed.
You
I'm
need you.
ashamed.
I mean, okay, so that's your next assignment here this week is you need to go and watch Black Panther. It will make
Yeah.
you if you weren't a fan of Chadwick Boseman, it will make you a fan, and it will make you mourn his passing that much more because the
Oh, I'm sure.
movie is incredible. Um, but she comes as kind of the representative, number one, uh, because Zemo has escaped and she's tracked him down. And we just realize how badass these women are.
Oh
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
we've seen them fight. None of them have powers,
none of them.
and yet they are fierce and formidable warriors.
And they only
And
have sticks.
well, I mean, they've got all of that Wakandan tech that they're
That's
at their
true.
disposal, and their spears that they're using are also vibranium.
Yeah. Well,
So
I guess it's more than just a stick. So.
right. One of the things we realize is that that Ayo and Bucky have a lot of history, and part of me was thinking that perhaps there had been a relationship between them in Wakanda. Though
Yeah.
I think Ayo was already in a relationship with somebody else, but they certainly knew each other. One of the powerful scenes was when Ayo was reprogramming Bucky.
Yeah.
That kind of removing that mental control and seeing the fear and the ultimate relief when he realized that nobody could ever manipulate it again. Um, I think that gift that she gave him of self control, and I think that was just a real testament to Sebastian Stan's acting that he conveyed that with very few words. I thought that was really neat.
It is really good. I have to go back and watch Black Panther, and I need to go back and watch what I want to do. And this is something that I think is really cool that Disney Plus does. They have the films in the order that you should watch them.
Yes.
And they have them categorized that way, and I think that's really awesome. So I think the next binge of watching things, I'm gonna go and start from I guess Iron Man 1, and then go all the way, which probably would take me a couple of weeks to do that because there's 20 movies or something like that.
And there are 23.
23, yeah.
23 movies.
More if you count. Well, I just watched them, but if you count WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's I guess you count that as two films. But
so I mean, in totality, there's more. But if we're just talking about the movies in preparation for Infinity War
right.
and for Endgame, it's 23. What I really, some people try to make the comparison between the DC universe and the MCU, the Marvel comic universe. And I'm sorry, as much as I love DC characters, the organization they put into this. I think it's been like a 13-year plan.
Yeah.
With 23 movies that are all laced together to tell this one cohesive arc leading up to Endgame. I'm sorry. I think DC needs to up its game.
And I'm wondering, will we see a new Wolverine? Or will we see the same Wolverine come back? Because, like eventually they're going to pull Wolverine, the X-Men into this universe. They're going to introduce them. So
I know. I think that definitely Hugh Jackman has said that he's done, and they, if you saw Logan, Logan made that very, very clear. Wolverine is dead, and he's not coming back.
So that stands to reason that any X-Men, any Wolverine, it's going to be all rebooted. Which, how do you reboot Hugh Jackman? I mean, I haven't seen all the X-Men movies, but I have seen a couple, and I want to say he's the best live-action Wolverine. He's honestly, I think, the only one. But still, like, there's a reason for that. I think because he's been so good. Like, why fix it if it's not broken?
Right. I mean, I will say that I didn't think that anybody could do Professor Xavier better than Patrick Stewart or Magneto better than Ian McKellen. And yet I love what Michael Fassbender has done with the character Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, I can't remember the guy's name.
He
plays young Xavier.
John something or Bill or something. I don't remember. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because he was also the guy that played the main dude in the movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie and Morgan Freeman and everything. So I've always liked him. That's like Wanted was one of the first things I really paid attention to that guy. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And one of those roles where he speaks in real life, it's like, hey, I was in the movie Wanted, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, how are all these actors not American? But they do such a good job.
In fact, I will say that what I love about British actors, they seem to have this knack for kind of like totally being immersed in the character. You will see them in a lot of different movies, and you won't recognize them until you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean that's why that dude is like so. He's got a good range as far as like what he can do and who he can be. And it's funny that we mentioned Wanted because then you see Chris Pratt, who ends up being a guardian of the galaxy. He was like his best friend in the movie who was having sex with his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and he was like the real jerk friend. And then to see that guy become Star-Lord, I'm just like, what? That's just a fun little thing that I.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily want to see a recasting of Wolverine.
Yeah.
But it's the same argument. If we don't have a recasting of Wolverine, then we're not going to have any more Wolverine stories. It's just like there are people that say they don't want to have T'Challa to be recast for Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I think the last thing that Chadwick Boseman would ever want would be for that character and the stories of Wakanda to not be told.
To just die and never be told.
I do. I think what we need to make sure of, and I think that MCU has done a fantastic job of, is we make sure that whoever recasts them, that they are the absolute best people possible.
Yeah, because MCU films don't typically, not counting Fast and Furious, Fantastic Four, the Fast and the Furious. Though, well, Vin Diesel was in Guardians of the Galaxy, but anyway, We haven't seen too many of those movies. Yeah.
As Groot.
And he was a foul mouth, always saying Groot all the time. They should have censored that and bleeped it.
They really should have.
Wouldn't it be funny? Bleep, 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 Groot, Groot, bleep, bleep, Groot. But yeah, we haven't seen too many reboots in the Marvel world. Now, you look at DC, like there's already been going now 2 Batman. There's, talking about a different Superman possibly and all this stuff. It's like they jump around so much with the DC films, which is so crazy because the shows are so great. And that's always been a theme until now, apparently, because Marvel doing all these shows, which kind of movies, but they're produced and presented as shows. So they're kind of coming around. So hopefully, maybe DC will start to have better movies.
I really believe that DC is in a position where they're either going to have to up their game, or they're not going to be able to compete at the same level that Marvel has. And
I've always thought, and I know a lot of people have agreed that I've seen online, that they need to just fully commit to tying into the TV universe, the CW, the Arrowverse. Not saying that, like, okay, Grant Gustin is the new cinematic Flash. This guy is maybe not do that, but have it tie together. And I think we're finally getting that. And we saw that in Crisis on Infinite Earths when Ezra Miller's Flash pops up. And then we're seeing that supposedly Grant Gustin is going to appear as well in the new film, which don't really know what capacity. It can't be some huge role. If anything, and a lot of people would be probably pretty annoyed by this, but probably replay the same meeting that they had in Crisis just in the movie and say that whole thing takes place during the movie.
Right.
Which I would be fine with that.
Right. I think that we're going to get sort of that multiverse thing.
For sure.
Like we had before.
You're looking at 2 Batman confirmed already. There was probably other news about the Flash movie, and that's a Flash movie. 2 Batman in a Flash movie. I mean, I'm just glad it's not George Clooney.
Oh, aren't we all?
I mean, it would have been interesting to see, new CG bat nipples, but I mean, to see how they do that. I mean, like pulsating lights or something. I don't.
When they're like spinny, dangly things.
Yeah, they have spinners and bedazzled.
Right, exactly. When the bat nipples were the highlight of your character, that's really sad. I like Adam West better than I like the George Clooney Batman.
It would be so great if they did an animated. They did do. I need to watch that. That's what I've been looking for. They did a not a reboot, but like a continuation of the Batman '66 animated movie. They did a new one. Of course, before Adam West passed away, where it was Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I forget which one, but I think one of the Catwoman original actresses played the voice on that as well. I can't remember what it's called, but it came out like a few years ago. Well, of course, Adam West has been gone for 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, that's really interesting. I want to go back and watch that. I forget what. I think it's called The Cape Crusaders Return or something like that, but it's along those, 66 animated movie and then the 66 live action movie and TV show. It's along that same line. Totally unrelated to all this, but we talking about Adam West, so
yeah,
kind of ties in there. But so Legends of Tomorrow is on right now, everybody. So if you want to watch it, I'm going to watch it tomorrow. But for the East Coast, West Coast, you have to wait 3 hours. We're in the future. I don't know why I said that. We're not in the future, but whatever. I'm excited to see where that show goes. I mean, I know I shared a couple of the promo images that I found, and it looks like there are going to be some heavy Disney references. And I don't know what of that is going to happen tonight on tonight's premiere episode. I might be too tempted to read spoilers tonight because of what I saw in those promo images. I mean, we saw a version of a Baby Yoda, which I don't want to get too spoilery, but we have no context to any of this, so we don't know if it's a dream or what it is. And then the pink thing, was that a live Bebo, or was that you think that was more of a Yoda type of? I don't know what that was.
I think it's a play on Yoda a little bit.
I think it was. I think it was like a mix between a Bebo and a Yoda.
I think if there's anything that we've realized about DC's Legends of Tomorrow, is that if there is a rule book, they have thrown it away, right? And that was essentially what Mark Guggenheim said. He had said what he loves about going into the writer's room for that show is you just tell them to do the most ridiculous things, and they do it.
And that makes that show so good. And people get so mad. They're like, it's too comical. It's too goofy. That's like, that's supposed to be.
It's funny because if people that watched it from the beginning of the show know that point where it went from being, I think, a serious show to being a lighthearted one. And some people were able to make that transition over, and some people were not. And I think that was part of the challenge that I think you have to watch Legends of Tomorrow and embrace the fun of that show, right? If you watch it and you want it to be serious, you're going to be disappointed. If you watch it and you just let yourself enjoy kind of a cheeky comedy superhero show that doesn't take itself too seriously and has fun, I think you're going to have a blast with it. Anyway, that's my shameless plug.
And I'm waiting for this season's joke of like, I'm so glad there's not a crossover this year.
I know.
They're gonna have, that line's gonna come up in that show at some point.
Absolutely. Hey, I know. Talking about shameless plugs, why don't you go ahead and put on our Twitter stuff?
I have that almost ready. It was here. I wish there was a way to put it I can put it in the comments, but then I'll forget it's there and then have to go back and find it again.
Right.
Because Corey never lets us down. He's always in here joining the conversation, and that's always fun. And going back, he posted a comment about where old Steve Rogers may be. Because I thought that. I was like, I'm sure Steve Rogers is going to pop up in this show. He's not dead, and you don't see him leave. But old Steve is on the moon with Sword, or in Wakanda. Falcon is the terrestrial Captain America. And that's a good point. So I think Steve Rogers might be in one of those places, but it's probably safe to assume he went back to his new reality.
Right.
Where he then is living out his life. Or could he go back to the moment where, never mind, time loop, don't want to get there. So yeah, follow us on at Pod and Hard Place, and you can follow at CJ Kirk 1979 4525252, or at Stephen Colton. I still love that name. I don't know what it is. I got to the point where I almost memorized it.
Oh,
I know there were several 2s and 1s, but
there was. It was sort of like code. I'm so glad that I ditched that.
Hey, it worked for a while.
I will tell you, I've been working really, really hard at promoting the podcast on Twitter. Yeah. I think that right now we're up to 151 followers.
That's quite a bit, and I mean, I think you've done a great job. And I've tried not to like jump in there too much because I know it gets kind of confusing sometimes. I'm like, I didn't write that, and then I realized like, oh wait, there's 2 of us, and then I think Twitter got mad at us, like you said, and then kicked us out of having a password. And I was like, and I think maybe sometimes like if we tweet not the same thing, but like at the same time on the same page, it might like think that I'm a Russian spy or something. I don't know, but it's easily fixed, just resetting the password. But yeah, I think I've noticed too, I get notifications. It's like, this person's following you. This person's following. Like, these people are coming out of nowhere. Like, I don't know who this guy is or that guy is. Never heard of them. But then they have cool things to say. And so it's like, I love the interaction, and it's starting to grow. And hopefully those people that follow us there will start to come over here and then start interacting so we can do more things like giveaways and maybe contests, games, or whatever. Just have that interactive side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
I feel like there are so many people both on our Facebook as well as in our Twitter who are looking for a podcast like this.
Yeah.
That just talk about pop culture and comic books and all these shows. I know that we can't be the only ones out there that love this stuff.
And I I created the Between a Pot and a Hard Place page originally. I also created a group, like a Facebook group of the same name. So if anybody wants to follow that, I don't have it written out or anything, but it's just, Between a Pot and a Hard Place. Search that and you'll see the page and the group. And I've looked, and that's why I settled on this name a long time ago, because I was looking for originality, and on the podcasting platform that we've basically kind of abandoned at this point, which is Anchor.fm. This gets so much more interaction doing it on Facebook and stuff. It's so much better. So many more eyes on the videos than there were ears on the audios and all of that stuff. But when I was looking for a name, I didn't see one instance of that name existing the way it is. I saw Between a Rock and a Pod Place and like different variations, but never Pot and Hard Place. And which I think is way better than my original name was like, Oh My Pod, really? Like, because it was like going to be a playoff of the comic book I was making, which I'm still working on, which, Oh My God, really? The cartoon version of myself working at a gas station, thinking of Garfield, that style of strip. But I wanted the podcast originally to be a kind of a play off that, to where I kind of drew everything together. And I was like, that's too much. I'm glad I changed it, because there were so many Oh My Pods out there that were like 30 or 40,000 of them. So I was like, no, this works. And even on Twitter, I haven't seen another one that I think pop up. So it's unique, and I'm glad that it's working. And we should start a Patreon and make people pay us every month to listen. No, one day. Who knows? Right.
We will, I think, something for us to aspire to.
T-shirts, bumper stickers.
I think so.
Pencils, aprons. But yeah, I mean, going into the conversation about giveaways, I wanted to go ahead and just throw it out there. It's going to be a couple weeks from now, but we're going to have Lee Newton back on the show.
All right.
Yes. Coming up, it's going to be May 16th on Sunday. I want to say 8-ish. I don't know what time, Eastern time. We'll figure the details out then. But I know we're going to be giving away her latest CD that she just put out. One lucky winner. We're not going to get – it's no Mark Guggenheim over here. We're not going to get 30 copies to give to everybody. But she's going to give us a T-shirt, an 8x10, and a CD. So one lucky winner will be getting that. And I think and, she's been kind enough to give us our own copy of our CD. Not our CD, but her CD. So that's exciting. She really has been, generous, both with her time and with just her stuff. So I can't praise her enough. No, I mean, I think that she's not only like super nice, but she's super talented. And I really regret not driving an hour away to be in that music video, because I would have been able to say, I know her. She's my best friend in real life. When she goes on to, win a Grammy or something, like, which I think she eventually will do. At least be nominated. At least be nominated. No, I think she deserves to win one, but I think she's great, and I can't wait for that. I think we can just speak that into existence for her, right? Grammy. And then tomorrow it's announced on like Yahoo News that she wins. Right. But yeah, I think I'm excited for that. I want to listen to that CD, because I've heard, little bits that she shared on social media, and I want to I want to listen to the whole thing. I'm probably going to put it in the car and just listen to the whole thing straight through. So there's that to look forward to. And of course, later on in the summer, the film shooting Clerks, we're putting together a big special for that. And it's going to be done a little bit differently, because they have, I know we discussed it on here before when we had Scott Schaffel on, but they had I talked about how they have a shared universe podcast studio in New Jersey. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to book that remotely. So normally what they do is they rent out their studio space and let people like us come in and just record. And they're there doing, tweaking the microphones, editing, and doing all this technical stuff. So all you literally have to do is walk in, sit down, talk. But I'm going to have them do all this techie stuff remotely. So it's going to be weird not controlling all this little bit and stuff. They're just going to do that. And I think it's going to be fun. And I don't know, did you ever watch the Comic Book Men on AMC, or are aware of it? I'm familiar with it. I've watched a little bit of it. Okay. So, the guy the two guys running that shared podcast universe are like Ming Chen and Mike Zapsik, who were on Comic Book Men. they're the ones doing this, and they got a really awesome business there. I mean, like you have this space set up, and you don't really have to do a lot. Turn on some microphones, hook up a couple of things, and sit back and let 2 guys or 4 or 5, however many, talk and get all this money as an income. Like, it's genius. My dream is to go up there and do this, but I seriously doubt I'll be able to go and just hang out in their studio for an hour. It would be a very expensive trip just to do that.
Right.
But luckily they do have remote services where it's a little bit cheaper. But I think it's going to be fun to have them, and they could be on the show as well. And they were both in the Shooting Clerks film. I'm trying to build it up. We've got a bunch of people popping up. I know pending her availability, Marilyn Gigliotti has already, said she's interested because they're shooting Clerks 3 in sometime in June or July, I believe. So hopefully, like, I would love to just shoot up to New Jersey and like walk onto set like, hey everybody, it's me. But I don't think it's going to happen because I think, they're talking, from what I've heard, it's going to be pretty secured as far as still with COVID and everything, which by then is going to be probably not as big of a deal. I mean, it's still a big deal. I'm not trying to minimize it, but as far as restrictions and stuff, I'm sure things are going to start to be looser and people are going to understand it more. But
right, I even here in California, I do feel like things are certainly starting to loosen up. I mean, we're eating inside again. Even though
I thought you were going to say eating again. I'm sorry. I'm like, you haven't eaten in a year?
It feels like it. I mean, I think that for an entire year, things like sitting down at a restaurant or going to a movie were things that, those used to be like regular weekly occurrences for me. Yeah. And not being able to do that for a year, that really sucked. I'm going to go to my first movie in a theater with Danny on Tuesday.
Nice.
And it'll be my first time in a theater in over a year. So it's about time.
Well, what we need to do is bring a phone and we'll do like a Skype thing, and I'll have it, and then you could have it there and have me watching the movie, and I'll be there too. But I guess that would make you probably not get to stay. You'll get kicked out pretty quick if you do that.
They would certainly think that I was recording it, which I guess technically I would be.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe not. Maybe I could just take an Uber that day, and imagine what an Uber would cost all the way there.
Take an Uber. My brother does Uber. I'm sure that he'd be more than happy to drive all the way North Carolina and then all the way back to California for you,
and then back again, and then back again. How much would that cost? I wonder.
I think you'd need to start printing money now.
I'm assuming I almost like queued up a response like, how much would that cost? Looking at the comments, like,
I know, a lot of money. It would be a lot of money.
I'm sure it would be. I don't even know. I don't want to guess because you're talking about just the fee alone. Plus, obviously, you'd have to pay the person's food and gas. I mean, that's several days, one trip. And if they're going to wait for you and then come back, and then the return trip back for him to come back to California after dropping me back off, it's like, okay, well, that's not too bad. He says it's about $5,000 each way. So it would be cheaper for me to fly to Tokyo, Japan, watch a movie in Tokyo, and fly back here. That would be cheaper than Ubering to California and back.
Right. In first class.
Yeah, in first, because,
Yeah.
Wow, I'm
Corey,
conflicted.
I know. Corey, you just missed an opportunity on a $10,000 trip.
Yeah, so, I mean, you should have said $2,500.
You could have cut Steven the deal.
Yeah, because I mean, I would have chosen that $2,500 one way, and then instead of flying to Japan, because that's $3,000 each way, I think. So I mean, I'll go. I guess I'm going to Tokyo.
I guess so.
Maybe in like 6 years, but hey, eventually, I would love to do it.
Hey, Steven, so I've got to wrap things up here because the party is starting here soon. But I look forward next week. I know that you're going to watch Black Panther. All right.
I am, and I'm going to
no more delay on that.
I got to start Mandalorian and watch Black Panther.
There we go.
And I have no excuses. I have Disney Plus. I also have Paramount Plus now.
Oh, okay.
So I've been watching that. You know, it's got a lot of. I've been watching it for mostly my childhood shows, all on Nickelodeon. I was huge on the '90s Nickelodeon stuff, so all of that's on there, and a lot of other things. So hopefully it works out, and it's about the same price as not Disney, but it's like $5 with commercials and $10 without. So it's got a lot of good stuff on it for me. But
all right, well, we will look forward to talking about that next week.
Absolutely. So catch us next week, probably around the same normal time. I would think around 8:30. I've been getting my times wrong today. 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific.
There we go.
I tweeted it out earlier today. I was like, join us at like 2 p.m. Pacific or whatever it was. And I'm just like, oh no. All right. Well, I look forward to that one. And have a good party.
Yeah.
Have a good night. And I will talk to you later on.
Okay. I'll see you. Take care.
See ya. You too.